I want to welcome everyone. I'm Paula Bartholomew, the Director of Online Events, and we're just delighted that you've tuned in for Hawthorn University's All About Alumni. That brings us right to today when our graduate Libby Bar-Kochba is going to share her post-grad professional experiences with her presentation, Crafting a Career from a Base of Volunteerism, Giving Back While Moving Forward. All right, Libby, hi, how are you? Welcome.
Hi, thank you for the warm welcome, and I'm very happy to be here.
I'm excited to be here together. It's certainly my pleasure to introduce you and have you share your post-grad experiences. All right. Why don't we get started then and have you tell us about your background and what led you to a career in nutrition?
Absolutely. Like many students at Hawthorn, I was drawn to nutrition because of my own health struggles. I have celiac disease, we have a family of diabetes, food allergies, and many other medical problems. And in my family, we have always been involved with food. I come from a family that was in the restaurant business. My father was a wannabe farmer, and he was always working with composting pits and grew organic veggies and fruits. And we all had a lifelong interest in physical fitness. So I'm a longtime yoga and fitness instructor. I taught Pilates. I do Phoenix Rising yoga therapy, Reiki, and all of this led me toward volunteering in many areas, including hospice. And with every volunteer opportunity, I wanted to go deeper and I needed to know more about nutrition. Now, I worked in a corporate environment for many, many years, and it was taking a toll on my mental and physical health. And this was a problem for me. I started out in graphic design, and in those days, they used to use a lot of the toxic materials. And from that, I was getting sick, and I could see that I was getting sick. So I knew I needed to make a change. So I gradually moved into the business end of advertising just to stay away from those materials. And loved it. I loved the business world. I loved the stress of it and the money. I loved the money. And in those days, I was raising a young child and I needed to have money, so I stayed. But I saw that it was taking a toll on my health. And I couldn't stay there if I wanted to stay healthy. And what happened was 9/11. And after that, I made the decision that it was time to make changes. I had volunteered teaching yoga with first responders, and I also worked with family survivors of the attack, my brother being one of them. My brother was injured in the attacks of 9/11. And from that volunteerism, I saw that there was a deep and important need to serve. And because I was a yoga teacher, there is a basic principle in yoga called seva, which is about service. And I saw that I was a person who was capable of making this transition. So a year after 9/11, I made the decision to leave New York, where I was living, and to move south. And around that time, I started looking into nutrition programs.
Wow. It's a great backstory. What about, what's your philosophy on work and how did studying at Hawthorn really impact your path?
Well, I have a lot of friends who are RDs, and they told me that they are finding themselves pigeonholed in positions where they're very limited in the ability to holistic methods. And often they ask to promote the standard American diet, which you know is sad, the acronym for it, and it sure is. And many of them were asking me for advice about supplements, herbs, homeopathy, and always complaining to me about the lack of functional nutrition that was taught to them in their schooling. Also, young mothers were coming to me with breastfeeding concerns. They wanted information on the best way to make food for infants and children in general. All of these people were seeking more natural methods rather than the formula being pushed their way by their pediatricians. All the time they had working breasts and they were discouraged from breastfeeding. So I began to research schools, and I had found Hawthorn when an RD friend of mine told me about it. She's someone who works in diabetes education, and she's considering taking her doctorate here. And I started looking into schools, and I liked a lot of the things that I saw about Hawthorn. I liked that I was able to work 24/7 at a reasonable pace, and working with instructors who are active in their field to give me one-on-one feedback. This was key, because there's a lot in education of doing as I say rather than doing as I do. And I felt that the instructors here were not only experienced, but most of them were currently working in the field of nutrition or medicine or something that was relatable. Mm-hmm. And once I decided to study here at Hawthorn, I showed my RD friends and my own doctors the materials we were using, and they were all impressed by the depth of them. Mm-hmm. And I like to call it my toolkit, because we get materials that are in the form of lectures, research resources, and I feel that everything that we get is up to date. There are peer-reviewed articles. We have lots of information given to us with every module. And then concerning my philosophy of work, Hawthorn really resonated with me in terms of the level of care for the quality of learning, the care of the planet, animals, and humans. And the other students share my concerns for health and well-being. It's further evidenced by the Hawthorn University student and alum Facebook groups, where we continue to collaborate with one another. It's a very nourishing atmosphere.
I agree, Libby, and it's delightful to hear you say it and hear it directly from what your experience is. So why don't you take a few minutes and just tell us a little bit more about your Hawthorn experience?
Yes, I loved my studies at Hawthorn. It took me 5 years to complete the degree, taking one class at a time. And this is possible at Hawthorn, because I was working full-time and caring for my handicapped brother, so I was able to study at a manageable pace. Also, I wasn't looking for a new career. I was studying because I really enjoyed the materials. And I loved the instructors. I actually had one instructor for the entire first year, and I learned a great deal, but it really wasn't until my second set of classes that I saw the potential for me to combine my studies with what I was already doing in my life. And that was, I wanted to stay within the realm of holistic thinking in body, mind, and spirit. I didn't have to work for a company. I could branch out on my own and offer my services to others as a volunteer. And this is part of the passion I have with work. So I began to develop a program for breast cancer patients, survivors, and their families. And then I began to see it as expandable into the community and further into areas such as how food is grown, caring for the earth, and even into the laws that regulate food, the environment, and change in general. Mm-hmm. Now, my thesis that I did at Hawthorn concerned itself with the improvement of outcomes for patients of breast cancer by inclusion of functional medical and nutrition methods. And I realized I could make a real contribution to people going through this terrible disease and treatment. Mm-hmm. And as I myself was nearing traditional retirement age, I began to see that I could offer my services on a voluntary basis. And even doing that, I could earn private clients. And beautiful. I saw the potential for that, to collaborate with others as well.
Yeah, tremendous opportunity for that, Libby. Beautiful. So will you share how your career has developed and how volunteerism has been a viable tool for you?
Yes. I actually did not define a specialty. That was not my plan, but I noticed that opportunities present themselves, and I kept seeing how breast cancer continued to show up over and over again. And I did have some ideas and information on how to help people living with this disease state. So I like to remain open to what shows up. I feel it's important to try and try different kinds of work on for size. And that's what I liked about volunteering, because it's a great way to do this by making a difference with the people you're working with and seeing if this particular area is a good fit for me. So it was important for me to give up the fear of saying no.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times in the beginning, when we're starting out, we're very unsure of ourselves, and this was hard for me. I wanted to please people. And this was a big issue for me. I'm still learning how to turn down work that I know will give rise to resentment. Because what happens, sometimes you, as I show in this slide, you take work and it doesn't look like what you thought it would be, but it can open up other opportunities.
True. Very well said, Libby.
So, next, I do want to talk a little bit about what works and what to stay away from. And for me, I found that sometimes I was on a path and I didn't take the time to notice what opportunities held my interest. I think some of us get on a treadmill of doing the same thing over and over again. I think they call that insanity in some circles, but it's important to have a philosophy of work whereby we learn to take work that is meaningful to us in the knowledge that it will lead to more opportunities that are similar. So
Yes.
sometimes we spend years and years in a job before we realize that we're unhappy. Sometimes we're trapped like this guy on the treadmill. We may overlook opportunities which might bring more satisfaction into our lives while allowing us to help others. For me, volunteering enabled me to try different areas and also try different types of clients. So I see that it also gave me a chance to realize that some clients were just not right for me. And perhaps there is someone that you know from Hawthorn who you can collaborate with, or let them take over the client entirely. So I think collaboration is a great way to learn more and to bring more to your clients. Everybody is not going to be a perfect fit for you. If you don't try new opportunities on for size, how do you know what's best for you? So I also believe that when you do what you love, you will do a better job. And doing what you love brings more of the same into your life.
Mm-hmm.
So as an example, we just had a Mother's Day, and I decided to visit a nursing home with my dog because I thought it would be a nice thing to do to cheer the mothers up. Instead, I walked in, and one of these really nasty residents yelled at me, "How dare you bring a filthy dog into this nursing home?" And some of the other residents were delighted that there was a dog there. The dog cheered them up. They were playing with him. He was sitting on their laps when their own children didn't even bother to visit them. Now, what I learned from this is that sometimes you get a feel for something and you know it's right. So I keep doing what I believe is right, even if I do have some unpleasant experiences mixed in. Because in this way, I learn what is right for me and where I can do the most good.
Very well said, Libby. It's a good story. We all face it, the curmudgeons amongst us and the people that respond with more joy. So true. So great. Let's talk about what opportunities you've seen as a Hawthorn graduate. What are you finding?
Well, first of all, I want to go back to the beginning. When I was at Hawthorn, I did need to get a firm foundation in the basics. I needed to learn about each body system, focus on what the basics were that applied in almost all cases. So while working with practice clients, I saw that my interests were more about teaching and providing support for clients that extended beyond just what they ate, but included their surroundings, their emotional state, culture, beliefs. And I feel that Hawthorn's process provided for this exploration because I was encouraged to experiment if I showed my confidence in the curriculum. So for me, this is very, very important because you really have to have a strong curriculum, but you also do need to have people who are there to give you feedback.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that with such a depth of knowledge from Hawthorn courses, we can apply our skills in a variety of areas. And in the clinical training programs at Hawthorn, students receive such a depth of knowledge about each body system, disease states, which allow us to shine a light into many areas of functional nutrition. So we're able to impact clients from pregnancy to old age and even in hospice. We're not only taught to work with food, but with mental states and physical health. And we are encouraged to explore and practice with real clients and not computer-generated robotic clients, as some of my ardent friends have had. And we're getting feedback from experienced professionals who are working with clients every day.
That's right. That's right. It's a unique experience inside Hawthorn stores and when you're working like this. And it's important, you know, it's a clinical training program. You're not just getting the science in the books, but you're getting the practical how-to and the guidance and the supervision along the way.
Absolutely.
Well, have you been able to use your activism and your volunteerism to find paid opportunities as well?
Absolutely. I can give you examples of it. Recently, I provided a meditation workshop at a community, and several of the participants learned of my background and called me to work with them privately on a variety of concerns. Some of them had illnesses they were struggling with, some needed nutritional support, and some just needed help adjusting to life after a serious illness. So I find that my opportunities are always expanding. While it's my choice to stay independent and volunteer for most of my work, I do see a tremendous opportunity to grow a practice and be offered paid positions as a result of volunteer work. So then, of course, you know, there is the matter of what is accepted in specific states. I came from a state that was very strict on licensing for nutritionists to one which is extremely restrictive. However, I think, you know, for me and many others, it is very important to take a stand and try to affect change, because there is always consideration of the job market where you live. And while I'm very comfortable, I do understand and work toward the knowledge that laws can change. Can't they, Paula?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think this is really a point, essential point. I think that our activism in this profession is essential.
Right.
Laws are made, laws are changed. We can influence these laws and the proposal of the laws. North Carolina is an example. North Carolina was one of the most restrictive states in the country, largely due to the work of Jonathan Posey and the Council for Health Educators. This law has been changed, and now it is a very friendly state for nutrition professionals to work that are unlicensed. You know, the same here in California. Unfortunately, the registered dietitians, some of them appear to be very threatened, as if there's not enough sick people in this country to support and to help. But it's through the grassroots activism that really can make a difference. We don't have to sit back here and just say, well, you know, this state doesn't work for me. We had a fantastic webinar with Jonathan Posey titled Grassroots Activism. Really steps us through the importance and the value of it, but the step-by-step process for how to. So I encourage people to check that out and learn from it and apply it in your life.
That's wonderful news. It really is, because North Carolina was such a problem at one time. And that only shows you how activism and, you know, standing your ground and being professional can really lead to change. And
True.
Getting back to finding your clients, who do you want to reach? As you can see from this slide, there is a method to finding work through volunteerism. Most of it is about getting some exposure, and some of it is about relationships. Like right now, I'm going to be giving a few classes at a local school to children to teach their families how to select healthy food. And this will include a trip to the food stores and some label reading. So you can see on this chart that we have, if you want to reach seniors, why not give a lecture at a senior community? If you want to deal with cancer, there are hospitals, cancer treatment centers, women's groups, self-help groups. If you are an activist, look at organizations that appeal to you. Animal activist sites. There are sites that are trying to get rid of Monsanto products, and they're being very successful. There's organics, there's policy change, there's just so much you can get involved with. You want better food? Why not work for the companies who produce food, or restaurants to go into the kitchens and teach them different methods of presenting food in a healthier way, a healthier plate. You want to write about nutrition? Just do it. Send your articles to magazines, to websites, contact other Hawthorn students and alumni who may be able to put your article on their website.
Mm-hmm.
So I think these are just some of the ways that you can reach people. And I've done a lot of these. I mean, I have given lectures in libraries, and I do love working with children, so I think this is quite helpful.
I do too, Libby, and I really like your example here of, really finding work through volunteerism and having that turn into paid work should you want to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very much about relationships. I love it that you're teaching classes at a local school to children. And I feel really that children sometimes are more influential than their parents. And so reaching them that say, this is better food, mom or dad, who's ever the primary shopper in the family, is when they're trying to please their child. So they might be buying, Lucky Charms cereal, and they would say, not such a good thing, Mom. We better have a better selection here, and let's go to the fruit and vegetable aisle. Well done, Libby. Well done.
Exactly.
So you've just expressed a number of opportunities and things that you've done, but do you have other work opportunities that you've found as a Hawthorn grad?
Yes. Many of us feel that we can only be called nutrition consultants, but there are so many titles out there and many opportunities. I mean, given that individuals with our skill set are needed in so many areas, such as you see here, governmental studies, medical nutraceutical sales, teaching, wellness centers, all kinds of places. I'll give you a couple of examples of people I know who are making a difference in other areas. These are people who have nutrition background. There's Diane Joy Goodman, who was somebody who studied nutrition for many years and worked for, I think it was Avalon, the organics company that she worked for.
Yes.
And she was instrumental in being sent by the NOSB, which is the National Organic Standards Board,
yes,
in California, to draft legislation around organics. Then there's Susan Berman here in Florida, who developed a food bank. And then there are others I know right now who are educating people on what to use instead of Roundup to get rid of weeds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're putting Roundup in breast milk, for God's sakes. This is serious at this point. And then there are many of us here who are benefiting the public and alumni and students at Hawthorn with webcasts, speeches, writings. There are so many things that you can do. I mean, just think of it. Years ago, I had a job in Whole Foods Market, and I didn't get paid much, but I learned a great deal there. And from that, I was able to build a file of supplement recommendations that I could use. One thing I do want to say about Whole Foods, while working there, they presented us with many lectures from prominent companies such as Gaia, and trainings. We took a trip to North Carolina to see their fields where they grow their herbs. And many times they would come to us with job offers to work for companies. So this is a way you can get another job. While I made no money there, it was such a learning experience. And people were coming into the store and they were asking to see me because they knew that I was helpful to them and that I had some nutritional background. I often go to a place, Life Extension. I know you're familiar with it, Paula, that
sure.
They have such good information on supplementation. And I think it's so important because there are medical students working there now, and they are there to learn how supplements can work in place of pharmaceuticals. And they're all telling me that in med school, they get practically no training in nutrition and zero training in alternatives to pharmaceuticals.
True.
So in response to student demand, one of the med schools here, which is Nova Southeastern, agreed to add more hours in nutrition, 16 hours. Imagine that, 16 hours. Think of how much we get here at Hawthorn University.
60 credits. You just graduated from a 60 credit master's program, Libby.
It's very funny, but the truth is that in traditional medical schools, they're lucky if they get 2 hours in nutrition.
True. Best schools have been 3, so to see it jump to 16 is kind of huge. I just hope that
Exactly.
functional nutrition, experts in Hawthorn grads get in the door to help them learn.
Yes, you see, I mean, there are so many opportunities.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Plenty of opportunities. Well, what are your plans going forward, Libby?
Well, in future, who knows what's coming up. I mean, I may decide at some point to work with an existing practice or take a position in a hospital or some medical area, but you have to consider I started this for the love of learning, and right now I'm doing exactly what's bringing me joy. That's the big thing these days. We have to do what brings us joy. I do see that it keeps me a lot healthier. So I'll continue to work with clients one-on-one. There are some areas that I'm really deeply interested and invested in, especially multiple sclerosis, breast cancer, and celiac disease. So I'll continue to work with those people. I am working on a website, and I'm even considering getting another degree, either master's in social work, and I'm not quite sure. Right now, I just had a talk with a friend of mine who is a canine and equine physical therapist, as well as an RD. And she wants me to help her with canine nutrition and massage. So I'm actually going to be heading out to Sarasota to take a program in that area next week. And of course, there's always the Doctor of Science at Hawthorn, which looks very interesting. And I think that it's actually a good deal in terms of price.
Well, there's a great special right now, on the doctoral special running through October 31st, celebrating our accomplishments and wanting to pass that along. And so, yes, there's a 25% discount on that program through October 31st. So
that's great.
Great opportunity there.
Yeah, well, that's the entire premise of my talk, because it's doing what you love.
Right.
Keeping your eyes open to opportunities that can arise from volunteer positions, and using the skills we've honed here at Hawthorn University to make a difference in functional nutrition. We use the holistic model to improve the lives of everyone we meet. This is why I feel it's important to point out some of the things in this slide, which may come up for some of us. I worked as a human resource administrator, and I have interviewed many candidates for positions, anywhere from receptionists to executive VPs, and some things always stood out for me. And I feel that we never want to be perceived as unapproachable.
Right.
Arrogance is offensive. So I have gone to doctors and I have gone to professionals who use words like, well, I'm the expert, or I have all of my clients do this, or how could you ever have a Diet Coke? I think we need to have respect for the people that we work with, and we have to be patient, because these people are just learning. And if they're afraid of us, they're certainly not going to take our advice. I mean, they're scared, they're not educated, they may be unfamiliar with what organic is or what vitamin C is, they may not have a lot of money for these things. So I'm trying to work with clients who don't have money and show them how you don't need a lot of money to eat well. And I think that we can't be afraid to say, I don't know, because we have fellow alumni to go to. We have our instructors here at Hawthorn to go to. We need to remain open to research and exploration and to knowing the basics. For example, the 4 R's of working with the gut, you can't go wrong ever with healing a gut. So I think that's important. And it's also, daily, it's important that we approach each client with respect, because I truly believe that respect and kindness are healing modalities.
Certainly.
And my work in hospice has really taught me that quite a bit. I have seen Patients learn to sing a new song, play an instrument, learn a few words in a language, make new friends, even with hours left to their lives.
Mhm. Beautiful. So true. Really.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Working from birth to end of life, there are many opportunities.
I agree. That's
So, like, I love this slide. This is the beginning. So, I'm wondering if you have any closing thoughts, if you have a message you want students and grads to take away from our discussion here, Libby.
Yes, I think whenever you begin a project, have a mindset of giving, learning, and letting go of fear. I mean, many of us have these self-limiting thoughts, past experiences, people who've been negative and maybe not, are cheerleaders. You've got to just let them go. There is a lot of support within our own community. And in a recent Tuesday Holistic Health and Nutrition webinar, we had one with Angela Anderson where we learned the money code and how many of us even have fears around money which limit us.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel that people should not be afraid to ask for what they want, because if you're going to take work for less than you feel you're worth, you'll be resentful, and then you'll be back on that hamster wheel with that guy, and you don't want to be there. So I think it's important to ask for help, ask for opportunities, ask for payment, and ask for referrals. If you have a client, don't be afraid to say, well, I've enjoyed working with you. Is there someone you would like to recommend? And I think we should always be learning, always ask questions, always be networking with other alumni, and to realize that you can have more than one career in your life. Look at me, I've had several, and I plan to have. So I think that this is something that we really should understand. This is the beginning. There is no end. As long as there's breath in your body, there's more to come. So I also want people to be really proud of their Hawthorn education, because it has prepared us for success. So what I'm trying to do here is to inspire others. I just want to spread the word and to be useful to other people. So I do want to thank all of you for being here, allowing me to serve you.
Libby, this is so beautiful. I'm very proud of you as a Hawthorn grad. I'm very impressed with all that you're doing. You're unique and you're in a position at the place that you're at in your life, and that you can afford to do the level of volunteerism that you do, that you've just demonstrated so beautifully by putting yourself out there, making yourself available, how much opportunity can come your way. So thank you, really thank you for just a beautiful presentation.
You're very welcome. Hope to see you all again soon.